region. This production is for adults only. Welcome to the Cannabis 101 podcast, part of the Cannabis Life Experience. Your guide through the legalization and consumption of cannabis in Canada and beyond. Join us on this journey and adventure with the wonderful plant. Here's your host, Dean Millard.
Hello there, and welcome to episode 80 of the Cannabis 101 podcast, hour number 1. Things are going to be a little bit different this week because I'm still recovering from pneumonia. Battled that last week, and not 100% there, but getting close. So yeah, that's why we did not have a show last week, as I was basically in bed for 5 days. So glad to be vertical, glad to be chatting with you, and glad to kick off the show in a way that only we like to do here on the Cannabis 101 podcast, and that's by finding out just what's your groove.
Put that in your pipe and smoke it.
Can you dig it?
Kinda grabs you by the boo-boo, don't it?
Pipe in a grape, long in a blend.
This is great. This is the bee's knees.
Can you dig it?
So with What's Your Groove, I want to know that if you're smoking a joint, maybe you got a bong, maybe you got some CBD, maybe you got an edible that I have, let me know. Hit me up on Twitter at the Cannabis 101. You can find us on Instagram and Facebook at the Cannabis 101 podcast. And you can email me, cannabis101podcast at gmail.com. So kind of the tagline, or one of the slogans of this show, is it's not just about getting high, it's about getting healthy. And after, just getting over pneumonia, it's probably not a good idea to be smoking or even vaping a lot of things. I'll vape a quick bag later, or not even a full bag in Know Your Buds. But I've got to recover, so I don't want to do that. But I still want to get the benefits of the wonderful plant that is cannabis. So I have here from Collab Project a cherry cola pop. So I was in to see my good friend Gage at Plant Life Jensen Lakes, and I always love his recommendations, something new. I was looking for an edible that I could have because I'm, again, not wanting to do a lot of vaping, and especially, if any, smoking, no smoking at all. So this has kind of been described as a little bit of maybe like a pop rocks, and I love those. So that is what I am grooving on. That was tasty. And the pop rocks. Bravo, Gage. Thank you. Wow. You got all the tingles now. Thank you for that recommendation. I thoroughly enjoyed that, and I'm sure I will in the next little while as well. All right. That's what I'm grooving with. Let me know what you're going with. And here is what's coming down the hash pipe on this episode. Very, very excited to be speaking with John Fowler of Blaise Ventures, the man behind Respect the Plant, 7 Acres. Can't wait to bring you this conversation. Very open and honest, and John giving some great suggestions for the cannabis industry and talking about his past and the future. So really, really excited. It was a really, really fun conversation. that we will be bringing, and then we'll have one hitters with John later on in the week. Chris Ianson of Plant Life Cannabis, regional manager, will be by as well. We're doing Black Cherry Punch from Figure. This is a dynamite cultivar, and it was in phenomenal shape as well. If you've seen some of my Instagram posts, things like that, I have had some cannabis, and I try to be honest when I get cannabis that isn't good and is good, and this stuff is very, very good. Our cannabis question is about 2021. We will have what pairs well with cannabis. The cannabis character is from Scary Movie. We'll tell you about the Weed Weekly and our giveaway that we have every week. But let's get things going right now and give you a chance to win some great prizes with the cannabis question.
It's prize time. Chime in on the cannabis question.
Okay.
And you could win a Cannabis 101 podcast prize pack.
Pipe and a crepe, bong and a blint.
Hit us up on any of our social media feeds or email us at cannabis101podcast@gmail.com.
Okay, here we go.
So the question is, what is something new to you in cannabis in 2021? As so many great things are already happening when it comes to the plant. For me, I've discovered bath bombs. We had Tanner Stewart of Stewart Farms on and went out and grabbed one of his Blue Dream bath bombs, and it was definitely relaxing. Like we'd said in the discussion, your definition of a high or how you feel might be different than mine, and probably very much is. But it was certainly relaxing. I will say that. It's something cool, good, and especially I loved, his reasons behind the packaging. So I'm going with bath bombs. But what about you? Hit me up on Twitter at the Cannabis 101. Get us on Facebook or Instagram, Cannabis 101 Podcast, and you can email us cannabis101podcast@gmail.com, and you could be entered just for chiming in for a Cannabis 101 Podcast prize pack. As for what pairs well with cannabis, for me, that's anything that pair well with cannabis, and that could be anything. For me, it's health. The slogan is, it's not just about getting high, it's about getting healthy. While I was dealing with my pneumonia, one of the things that helped me was CBD tea, the peach ginger, I believe it was. And it was something that I could actually keep down. It made me relax a little bit. It just helped along with, of all things, a soda water just on its own. Health, CBD tea. I really enjoy it. I want more of it. And I think it's something that I'm going to start throwing into my daily routine of having a cup of CBD tea, in the afternoon. I think CBD during the day, as John Fowler and I will discuss, throughout the day for people is going to be something, as we learn so much more about the plant, that is going to be much more popular. So that's what pairs well with cannabis for me, but I'd love to hear what you pair well with cannabis, because I love discussing everything about the plant with everybody, and that includes our great sponsors. David Wiley and Malcolm LaBelle will be on hour number 2 on Thursday. They're usually on hour number 1. They're one of our great sponsors, as is Stone Smiths. Check them out. Great local company in Edmonton, stonesmiths.ca, great Canadian company. Their Slash is such a cool concentrates pen. It has a built-in loader, and they give you a cool 6-piece container, rubber container that you can, or silicone, I think it is, that you can keep all your different concentrates in, dip your loader in there, and then boom. Also, they're an Edmonton company, as I mentioned, built for Edmonton winters. And man, did we get a doozy of a snowstorm last night. So I hope nobody was stuck out in it. But if you were and you had the Slash, the battery would have held up because it is built for Edmonton winters. So you can find more information at the website, stonesmith.ca. You can find it at Shell Shock in Edmonton, Smokers Junction in Calgary, and Cowboy Smoke Shop in Calgary and Vancouver. Another one of our partners is the artist My Dead Dog, who puts together some songs about the wonderful plant, including the weed song. We're going to hear that, and then our conversation with John Fowler, the founder of 7 Acres and now Blaise Ventures, right after we hear the weed song from the artist My Dead Dog. Very pleased to welcome to the show a man very well known in the cannabis space for good reason, and we're going to get into a lot of that. John Fowler of Blaise Ventures is joining me. John, thanks very much for giving us some time today. How are you?
Good, thanks. How are you?
I am excellent, thank you, and pleased to be chatting about the wonderful plant. And the question I always start off with pretty much every guest, just to kind of give my listeners and viewers a little bit of a background. And there's a lot of new people that are coming to this space all the time. But what did you do before you decided to get into the cannabis space? I
was a child.
So have you been in this space the whole time?
In the cannabis space longer than my parents would allow me to admit on a video here. But you know, I've been professionally involved in cannabis my entire adult life, and I was a medical cannabis advocate before then. So realistically, I kind of went from Tonka trucks to tokes and never looked back.
That's beautiful. So when and why did cannabis become a part of your personal life?
So for me, I'm not gonna lie, when I started trying it, I liked the stuff. It was good. But when it really clicked was the first time I met an adult medical cannabis patient. So as a younger person consuming cannabis, I always just assumed you stopped. It was like, you know, silly things that young people did, I guess. And I remember I was at my friend's house. Her mother's a registered nurse. Her mother came over, sat down on a living room couch and smoked a joint. And like, that was the craziest thing I'd ever seen. Like, I'm sure I've seen adults smoking pot before then, but I certainly had not seen someone sit down on the couch of their own home and spark up a joint, let alone a nurse. And that was really my introduction to medical cannabis. And, you know, my peer group for a number of years was medical cannabis patients in their 50s and 60s. And I was not in my 50s and 60s at the time, but that's really what started me down the path that cannabis can be a positive long-term part of somebody's life. You know, as a good alternative to alcohol, there's a lot of recovered addicts that, you know, whether it's alcohol or tobacco or you know, opiates or other things that have used cannabis. And that was really eye-opening to me. So I've always had that sort of medical first relationship with cannabis. And then it's become increasingly a bigger part of my life, you know, as a hobby and a pastime with the activism. It was what guided me to law school. And then, you know, it's been pretty much my entire working career for the past, what are we at, like 7 years now.
Oh, that's wonderful. And we're going to obviously dive into founding 7 Acres in a second, but let's talk about, you know, what it is that is going on currently with you, and tell us a little bit about Blaise Ventures.
Absolutely. So in 2020, I started Blaise Ventures after being fired from Supreme. And really what I wanted to do is I knew I wanted to stay in the space, but I wanted to have some flexibility. I also had a practical reality. I was doing an MBA at the time, and you're supposed to put your company name, and when I said that I wanted to put unemployed pot dealer instead of a job title, I was told I wasn't allowed to do that. So we started Blaise Ventures with a good friend of mine, Scott Walters, with just a goal to basically work in the space on project we cared about. You know, we wanted to make money, obviously, but really we wanted to make great products and just love and respect the plant. I know you have that 7 Acres tagline sitting beside you. So we started really not knowing what we were going to do, but having a really strong set of principles that guide us. And we just had the most amazing 2020. We were able to start multiple businesses. We were able to build a really strong team. And now we're going into 2021. We're the managing partner for Muskoka Grown, which over the next 12 months, we're going to turn into one of the most exciting smoked flower brands in the country. I'm super excited to roll that out over the coming quarters. And we're able to launch our big rosin, our live rosin coins, which was the number 2 selling premium product in Ontario in December. And quite frankly, I think the best value cannabis product in the space. It's really, really good rosin, cheaper than I can find it on the black market. So as long as that's true, I think we're in a good place. So that's sort of where we're at. And really, the structure we have at Blaise Ventures allows us to be super nimble, super flexible, and either take on projects individually or take on projects as our full team is about 12 or 13 people now. And it's been great. And it's really just reconnected me with the plant, reconnected me with the consumer. And just, I wake up every day asking myself, how can I make the consumer happier and how can I make the plants happier? And, as long as we're doing that every day, the business just seems to get better.
That's awesome. And you're right. I have that respect the plant logo or catchphrase. I think it just encapsulates everything. If you want to get started in cannabis, that's where you should start. And maybe let's go there. What was it like, founding something like 7 Acres and coming up with, I think, which is something that is just encapsulates what you should be, the proper attitude when you're getting into this space.
Yeah, so 7 Acres was obviously a career highlight for me, and I hope the brand continues to be successful, and I can tell my grandkids about it one day. That's what your old grandfather created way back in 2015, 2016. But for us, really, we had to achieve a couple things. Number one, I had a personal problem. I know a lot of people that were in the MMAR or ACMPR program that grew cannabis that was way better than 7 Acres. But I also knew 7 Acres cannabis was way better than most of what the LPs were doing. So if you notice, we always said we were the best legal cannabis. So that was part of our carve out. The second thing is we wanted to come up with a slogan that not only were we proud of, but that nobody could detract from. So I'm a big believer in net promoter scores. So your promoters are as relevant as your detractors. And we were worried that a lot of things we came up with, if you're in the culture, at that time, we always viewed the unlicensed producers and sellers as our main competition. Maybe arrogantly, we figured we could beat all the legal guys. So we came up with Respect the Plant, because my view is you might not like legal cannabis. You might not like me. You might not like our brand, but you can't hate on the plant. And that's where we started. And it really became a mantra for the entire business. Around just respecting the team, respecting the facility, respecting the company, but most importantly, respecting the plant and the people that consume the plant. And I think that's what sets 7 Acres apart is we prized our customers. There was a lot of people back then running cannabis companies who, for example, would not be happy if their 19-year-old child came home and said, I've decided to give up drinking wine and I'm just going to do cannabis now. I don't have a 19-year-old kid, but if I did, nothing would make me happier. So that really was the ethos. It was a mantra for us. And one thing I was really proud of in December, I worked a couple of shifts at a retailer in Toronto, trying to just better understand the retailer's job and how they deal with consumers. And 7 Acres, we weren't the top selling brand that day, but we were the top selling brand that people asked for by name. So for example, Ready Can with their Reddies flew off the shelf, but people would ask for the little cigarette joints. Right. People came in asking specifically if we had anything from 7 Acres. It was the most heartwarming thing to know, even a year after I had been involved, that people are still asking for it by name and just being proud that we set up a brand and we set it in the right direction. And I think some good people are at the helm, managing that brand moving forward.
So that's the beginning and the excitement and everything that was you're so proud of. I guess the flip side, and you alluded to it earlier, having to leave that company that you built is that one of the harder things that you've had to deal with?
Yeah, I would say that. So look, everything comes to an end at some point. I always had a fantasy that I would run the company for 40 or 50 years. But I was not perfect as a leader. I didn't make every decision correctly. And in the end, there was a change in direction in 2019 that saw me move to the side and then eventually moved out. For a while, I was very upset about it. Be honest about that. But at the end of the day, I think we resolved things in a good place. Again, I want nothing but the greatest of success for 7 Acres and Supreme. That's my legacy. I mean, nothing is better for me personally than them being the first $1 trillion company or something like that, right? But mostly I like the idea of the brand doing well, the jobs in Kincardine. Bina, the CEO there, is super experienced in consumer goods. So she's going to bring a level of discipline and planning to the business that I think is needed. That was probably over my head, but these things happen. But the plus side is it's opened up this great world of new opportunities for me to not have to deal with the headaches of a large public company, not have to deal with having to raise hundreds of millions of dollars or have, we had 75,000 shareholders at one point. So I always joked like I should go rent the Astrodome and fly everyone down there because I can't even fit them all in the Skydome. But to me now it's really just about the consumer. We work in private businesses. We have a couple supportive shareholders, but mostly I self-finance the businesses. And it just means we can go back to basics, create great products, price them fairly, and make sure they're made by happy people. And if you can do that, the cannabis business isn't so hard.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what I wanted to ask you about. What when you think of great cannabis, what do you think of? What it should look like, feel like? That this debate is going to go on for a while. The gray market, black market compared to the legal market, whatever it is. I tend to think that people think that everything they got from the illicit market was always AAA #1 product. I'm not debating there isn't great product and probably still is, but that debate that the legal market can't stand up to the recreational market, I don't think exists anymore now that we're a few years in. But what does good quality cannabis look, feel? What is it to you?
So one cool thing about cannabis that I've learned, everybody's a little bit different, right?
Sure.
For example, the WAPA we used to sell at 7 Acres, it's fruity. It's not my cup of tea at all. When we discontinued that strain, people were angry, like legitimately upset with us that we weren't selling that anymore. I'm like, it's a 17-18% fruity Dutch strain. Why don't you want this nice OG Kush? But so everyone to each their own. But what I think is commonplace amongst consumers is everybody wants the best cannabis they can afford, right? So sure, not everyone's going to go drop huge amounts of dough every week on their cannabis, but all things being equal, they want the best they can afford. And I think there's 3 buckets when you think about good cannabis. I think first of all, people want it to look good. And what I mean by that is, well trimmed. It looks like it was cared for. So obviously a good OG looks different from a good cookies, looks different from a good skunk. But, all of them, it should have a decent sized bud. It should be kind of frosty. It shouldn't have a lot of extra leaf on it. I think we can both close our eyes and have probably a fairly similar view of what good is. The second one is it should smell strong. And by what I mean there is, again, a sativa could be woody versus a gassy indica versus a fruity strain. God forbid a cheese strain, which I hate, but some people just love. But whatever the smell is, I've never met someone that wants their cannabis to smell less. Maybe they want to smell like cannabis less later, but nobody's like, oh man, check out how strong this weed smells. I wish it really smelled like less. Whatever that smell is that you like, you just want as much of it. And I think cannabis should be graded on a distance scale. If I open up an ounce of weed sitting here, how many meters away can you smell it? And really good weed, that's a really big number. I always love that when I'm in the house or we used to do a lot of sampling in the office. There was a couple times where a jar of cannabis we had opened 3 offices down from mine. And all of a sudden, whatever I was doing, I'd just like perk up and just go running down the hall and, try to check it out. So I think, it should look like it was well taken care of. It should smell strong, whatever it is. And the third one is that smell should come through in the flavor. So when I say it should taste great, again, not everyone likes the same flavor profile, but you want to taste what you smell without any of the negative characteristics of an acrid burn or a fertilizery taste or those negative characteristics. And I think that's the same. I think look, aroma and flavor is what consumers are after. And I think that we prioritize potency, but quite frankly, other than the value equation side of it, for most people, if you like smoking cannabis, it's not the end of the world to smoke a second joint if the first one didn't get you where you want to go.
No doubt. So that's the plant. What are your thoughts on the packaging and how that's evolved in the last couple of years? Some of it was big and some of it has gotten smaller, which is a good thing, and different varieties. I would love to see harvest dates as opposed to package dates. I'll be honest, I've accidentally walked, well, not accidentally, but I bought some cannabis and got home and it was over a year old, and it's almost like dust. But what are your thoughts from your experience with how the packaging has evolved?
So packaging is getting better. Most of us started in basically cosmetic jars. Mm-hmm. They're porous. They don't get a good air seal. Even if you do get a good seal on it, there's often too much air in the container. But I think things are coming. So I'll give you an example with our live rosin. We actually don't fully cure the rosin before we package it because we can't control the supply chain and the temperatures and the time. So we actually package it in a way that it's not fully finished so that the consumer can finish it at home and get the greatest experience. And I think if you think about a lot of products like vegetables and fruits, many of those are actually not picked at the peak of ripeness because they know you're not going to eat it right away. And I think that's bigger than the physical packaging itself. We all learned how to grow to make the perfect bud that's going to get consumed pretty soon, right? It's actually a bit of a different mindset to say, what's the perfect thing I can put in the jar so the customer has the perfect experience a month, 2 months, 3 months later. So that's number one. Number two, I see a lot of, I want terpenes on the label. I want this date. I want that date. That's all bullshit. Sorry, I don't know if I can swear. That's all window dressing. What I mean is brands need to stand by their product. I should know as a brand if my product is past its best before date, and I should go out of my way to make sure you don't buy it. These dates are all ways that we're trying to fact check the brand because we don't trust them. And the brands don't give us reason to trust them. So to me, yeah, sure, we can put all that on. It creates more complexity than people think in the facility. It adds cost. Really what we need as consumers is we buy things we like and we don't buy things we like. And we're very choosy with who we give a second chance to. And I think that when consumers are empowered, brands are going to adapt or die. But at the end of the day, that's really what it should come down to is when I buy this Muskoka grown blueberry or this big live resin or canopy or whatever the brand is, right? I should know what I'm getting and I should get that delivered to me every time. And I shouldn't have to look for a date and make my own guess about, well, was this harvest date the right time or was the pack date the right time? I should know. It's good because this is what I expect from the brand and that's the brand promise. And if I get anything less than that, I have a right to be pissed off. And if the brand doesn't take care of me, I'm going to go to somebody else.
You have not only, created companies, but you've also been an activist, and with that comes trying to end the stigma where it is involved with cannabis. I started using cannabis when I was 15 years old, and up until then, you had to whisper that, hey, we're gonna go smoke a joint. Now we can be like, hey, I want to go smoke a joint. You're in the pub watching the game. You want to go smoke a joint? Whatever. We can do that. How do you think, from the time that you kind of became an activist until now, how do you think that stigma is kind of on a level? And do you think, and what are ways that you think people can do to help end it more?
I think the fastest way to end stigma is for everyone to listen to this podcast, go buy 3.5 grams and get stoned and realize it's not the end of the world. It's maybe even kind of fun. But I think, look, I think legalization didn't remove stigma as much as I hoped it would. It created a lot of novel use, but almost a bit of stigmatized use in that, it's a little risque, I'm going to do it. I think what I'm excited for, if you look back on stigmas or prejudice and all that stuff, it's often generational, right? So, we've seen that with big ticket issues in Canada and the US. The generation that's, in their 40s and 50s when the world changes generally doesn't, they might noddingly accept, but they don't believe it, right? what I'm excited for is, I have family and I have friends whose kids are teenagers in a legal space. They will never know anything but legal cannabis. They will never know that there was a time that if you chose to smoke pot instead of drink beer, you could lose your job. Like I literally, when I was a lawyer, every Monday on my drive to work, I would make up a fake story about how drunk I got on Fridays because I didn't want to tell people that actually on Friday, I smoked a joint, hung out with my fiance, and ate a cheeseburger. And on Saturday, I woke up early and felt great. But instead of like, oh yeah, went out to whatever, drank 1,000 beers, didn't wake up till noon on Saturday. And in some perverse world, that was a better story than telling somebody I smoked a couple grams of pot on a Friday night. But I think that it's going to be generational. But the individual thing we can all do to fight stigma is if we consume, just tell people we do it and be honest about it and be honest about the upside. And hopefully that'll make people realize that, we don't grow horns, we don't lose our job, we don't do all these things. The biggest thing I had for my personal stigma that was really interesting was when I went from high school to the University of Toronto for my undergrad, to the University of Ottawa for law school, to Bay Street law firms, to the capital markets, the percentage of stoners was pretty much the same in all those groups. And that was really, they hit it better as you went up the ladder, I guess. And, there's still a lot of people I know who are influential folks that prefer a toke to a drink. And I'm always encouraging to be more public about it. But the fact that they won't just shows that, there could be stigma. And we got to keep in mind, even when we beat that stigma in Canada, it's not the same when you travel around the world, right? I have colleagues that are not in the cannabis business who say, look, I don't care if people in Canada know that I use cannabis, but, I travel to countries where it's still a legitimate crime. Like I met a guy in Spain last year from Russia who told me like, you can get decades in jail for a couple grams of pot. And then I understood why he didn't want me to tag him on Instagram that, we had this great conversation in Barcelona.
Yeah, well, it shows while the world is opening up in some ways to the plant, there's a lot of places that are never going to be open to it. And let's wrap up with this one. What do you think is the next big thing in cannabis? Could be in Canada, can be worldwide. There seems to be quite the shift going on. Is there something that you think is going to be, and I look at we had the season one, as I called it, of legalization, where we had flour and a little bit of oil, and then we moved into these new products. And, what's the next big thing for cannabis, do you think?
100% the most important global event is U.S. legalization. So, over the last 50 years, realistically, the world has been forced to adopt America's drug policy. And this is beyond cannabis. This goes to, what they've done in the Middle East, what they've done in Latin America. We've all fallen in the shadows of U.S. drug policy. And sadly, U.S. drug policy has informed a lot of their foreign policy. So if we get legalization, I'm hopeful we'll see that in Biden's term. I'm not as bullish as some that we're going to see it right at the start. I think, practically speaking, he's got bigger fish to fry, so to speak, in the short term. But I do think, with the blue wave, there's a good possibility we could see legalization happen. And I think once America makes the change, I think we're going to see a domino of a lot of states that are ready to go. But maybe we're worried about their U.S. relations before doing that. And sorry, by states, I mean countries. So I think that's going to be an accelerant to how quickly we get to the point where most countries consume. And again, for example, those countries that still have very restrictive cannabis laws, once the U.S. goes legal and you start getting foreign executives and actors and musicians being more open about their cannabis use, it's going to be harder and harder to maintain that prohibition fiction in those other countries.
Well said. John, this has been a lot of fun. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for 7 Acres, and best of luck with Blaise Ventures. Stay safe during these times. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thanks so much.
This is the Cannabis 101 podcast, part of the Cannabis Life Experience, turning the wheel of cannabis one toke at a time.
That was such a pleasure. What a great conversation. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did as well, and big thanks to John. You can check out One Hitters later this week featuring John as we get to know a little bit more about his personal cannabis history, and you can find that in full episodes at www.cannabis101podcast.ca. You can also subscribe to the Weed Weekly and qualify for our Friday giveaway.
You got a joint? No, not on me, man. It'd be a lot cooler if you did.
Time now for Cannabis Characters.
Dopest dope I've ever smoked.
Celebrating the best from fictional 420 film
Hey, I am your stoner.
and beyond.
Heavy girl with that, man. Is it heavy stuff, man?
All right, so the cannabis character that I am going with this week is the character Shorty Meeks from Scary Movie, the Scary Movie franchise, but this one particularly is Scary Movie 2, and the character portrayed so excellent by Marlon Wayans. These horror spoofs, they were pretty funny, I thought. Silly, kind of gross out humor sometimes, but for the most part, they were just, good kind of sit back, especially smoke a joint and laugh your head off. But they definitely did have a lot of those. In the second one, one of Shorty Meek's plants gets possessed, rolls him up and smokes him. It's a pretty funny scene that also includes Neil Patrick Harris as well. So here is Shorty Meeks in Scary Movie 2.
Good night, little plant. You drink all this little water up so you can grow up to be a nice, strong crime plant. Yes, yes. And then you'll be smoked by all the rappers and make them do a whole lot of dumb shit that fuck up their career. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to smoke your relatives. Please, no! I didn't do it by myself. Whitney and Bobby, help me. Please, help me! Oh, shit. I smell something burning. Oh, snap. It's me.
I got an idea.
Oh, wait a second. Hold on, Shorty. Don't rush me yet. I'm getting high as a motherfucker. Hope. Take it to the head. You take it like a bitch.
Put the shorty down. I'll give you Funyuns and Cheetos. Put him out.
This shit burn more than a perm.
All right, funny stuff from Marlon Wayans as Shorty Meeks in Scary Movie 2 as our cannabis character this week.
The cannabis life experience. It's not just about getting high. It's about getting healthy. Turning the wheel of cannabis, one toke at a time.
All right, as mentioned earlier, big thanks to our partners. You'll hear from David Wiley of the OZ and Malcolm LaBelle from the Business of Cannabis on hour number 2 on Thursday, as we do This Week in Cannabis News and the Business of Cannabis. Malcolm LaBelle from the Green Generation Company. So they're our partners. The Regal Cigars, Andre from Regal Cigars. Can't wait to get him out here when we can. And of course, Stone Smith. They have the Slash right here. Looks like the thing for Men in Black. That's where the design idea came from, but then they took it off. The cool thing is you've got these temperature settings. So you just double click and boom, you go up to red, which is 500 degrees Fahrenheit. Give it 3 more clicks and then you're into the blue, which is 400, and green rather, which is 300. And you also have blue at 400. So different temperature settings. If you got live resins and live rosins, it's blue or green. If you got caviar or you have diamonds, then you're definitely looking for like the green setting. Shatter is definitely great on the red setting. So very simple to use. If you're new to dabbing, even if you're experienced in cannabis, but you're not experienced with concentrates, maybe you're a little bit leery about using the torch, this is an awesome way to get into it. And for the veterans alike, it's great, very, very portable. So thanks to all of our partners, especially them. Check them out at stonesmiths.ca. Love working with local companies and partnering up with people that really care about the cannabis industry.
Who grew it? What's the terpene profile? Who created it? What is the lineage? How much THC? What's in a name? This is Know Your Buds, a close-up look at cultivars you should try. Or try again. Joining Dean is our educator, Chris Ianson.
Oh, it is great to be chatting with my good friend Chris Ianson of Plant Life Cannabis once again after we had to unfortunately postpone last week. It's hard to record a podcast when you're lying in bed for 5 days, Chris, so that's why we had to skip it. But while I was recovering in bed, you and the gang at Plant Life have been very busy, especially with some new stores.
Yeah, that's right, Dino. I'm actually down in Calgary right now. I'm here to help support. We're opening a new store in Southeast Calgary in the Mahogany area. It's a big, beautiful store opening on January 27th. Pretty exciting. Pretty pumped to kind of see. I guess this would be my first Plant Life store opening. Got a great staff already, great manager there. Super excited to see where it goes.
Indeed, the Plant Life stores popping up all over the place, and that is good to hear. And I'm sure more expansion on the way in some other spots. And I'm really excited to be able to take a look at this cultivar that we're doing today, Black Cherry Punch, an indica dominant hybrid, and I'm excited because I like the LP that it comes from. It's Figure. So let's talk a little bit about Figure and especially who the parent company is with this cannabis company that, in my opinion, seems to be on a rising track.
Yeah, no doubt, Dean. So the parent company is Pixis International. And they're a global agricultural company with over 145 years experience of delivering value-added products and services to businesses and customers. So very dialed in on the agricultural side of things. Figure is their cannabis region, part of the company there, and it's Figure's a handcrafted, homegrown cannabis company. They grow cannabis with the character of fifth generation homegrown farmers and the integrity of a fully verifiable source to market tracking system. So it's a combination of farm wisdom crossed with modern scientific rigor. It's very cool to see, and I'm a big fan of seeing the farming industry get into cannabis. I think it just feels right. Figure was founded in 2017 by then President and CEO Edwin Jarrell in Charlottetown, Prince Edward Island. So they're out of PEI, and it started out as a small family venture, and that turned into the big cannabis beast that it is today. Presently, the company is run by their current CEO, Harvey Carroll, and Harvey comes from a background of 25 years of experience in the food and alcohol industry, and he works out of their head office in Toronto.
Wow, so some pretty solid growth, to use the term of the industry. This is a company that, as you mentioned, kind of started small and now is, really taking off. So tell us a little bit about, the history of their growth and kind of where they're working out of now.
Yeah, for sure, Dean. So yeah, this company, Figure, started out with 4 employees. Now they have upwards of close to 200 employees, some seasonal employees depending on harvest and stuff. But 4 to 200, that's some serious growth. The facility in Prince Edward Island is called Canada's Island Garden, and it's over 300,000 square feet. It's 6 football fields, pretty much. Just picture them right next to each other. So whole lot of growing space there. They use LED lighting, which keeps the energy costs down, and it's good for the environment. They use rainwater, which is recycled, a computerized system to monitor the data, and they also use natural air ventilation too. And we grow in hydroponically too, which is a real nice way to soillessly grow your cannabis. They also have a smaller facility in Simcoe, Ontario. It's about 20,000 square feet, and it's named the Gold Leaf Farm. And recently, the company they added an option for expansion of upwards of 700,000 square feet. Because they acquired the 20 acres of land adjacent to this facility. So right now, that's kind of their small facility for right now. With the, if they need to expand, they've got the room to do it. Pretty cool.
That's awesome. I love those stories of somebody starting small. Not that if you have the resources to start big, there's anything wrong with that, as long as you can maintain that. And unfortunately, we've seen a lot of companies that haven't been able to do that. And these guys are going the other way, starting small, doing it right, and building properly. And they also have, I guess, a unique labeling system with their cultivars, don't they?
Yeah, Dean, they do. So when Figure first came to market, they were a number system. So you would come in the number 7, the number 14, the number 8, and they kind of represented different cultivars. It wasn't on the packaging. You kind of had to look into a little bit. I think that they heard from people saying, you know what, we want to know what we're smoking. We want to know what the cultivars are. And they pivoted. They switched, and they switched over to the curated collection of the Go series. And so there's, 5 different, I guess, vibes on how you want to feel. And it's easy. There's a chill. There's steady, which is what the Black Cherry Punch is under. That's under the Go Steady. There's also play, and there's elevate. And those are a couple of sativa dominant ones. And it's kind of nice to see the different vibes, but still see the cultivar there as well. Feel like they kind of got that one right. A lot of LPs are, going with just a vibe only. I like that they've got a vibe, and there's I guess a family of cultivars within that vibe.
I could not agree more. I mean, it's like they saw what some people were doing, and they were doing, a pretty good job, and they perfected it because they have the vibe, but then the actual cultivar that maybe you're familiar with, and you're like, oh yeah, I know about that, but maybe I didn't know about this one. So you're right. I think they're, as Charlie Sheen once said, winning on this one quite a bit with that system. So bravo to that with their different vibes and their different collections, and also bravo to them for the Figure Fund. Tell us about that.
Yeah, this is really cool. So every month, Figure, they take nominations for a BIPOC owned business. BIPOC is Black or Indigenous or people of color. So BIPOC owned businesses, once they've selected a business to support, they will purchase products or services from that company and actually have the company distribute it to the community around them. So very cool initiative. I think it's a lot of good inter-promotion too. I feel like the companies involved are going to benefit from that in the time to come. And they do a new business every month too. So it's super, super cool to see. I'm a big fan of cannabis companies. We know they make money, but it's nice to see them giving back or supporting the communities.
I think that's awesome too. And as we were kind of looking at the website, you can just see there's a lot of good information on it. They're doing a lot of really good things. So bravo to these guys for sure. But when it comes to the website, and you can check it out at www.figr.com, they have something very cool. I'm not going to say they're the only ones, or it's like the first ever with products, but I haven't seen this with cannabis products. So tell us a little bit about how you can actually track. I'm holding this in my hand. I can track exactly the right, almost every detail about this batch, Chris.
Yeah, buddy, it's crazy. So it's called the Sensi track and trace system. And it's something that Figure offers to make them stick out a little bit compared to the other LPs. Each Figure product comes with a lot number. It's right on the front of the jar, and on their website, there's a spot right on the homepage where you can actually put that lot number in. There it is, and you can choose on the right there if you've got a numbered product or a gold product, and it'll actually bring up a whole lot of info on that specific batch of the cannabis that you got in your hands. You can see how it was grown, where it was grown. They even have a COA, so certificates of an analysis are on there. And it's got a full breakdown of the terpene profile in it, as well as pesticides tests and just like a full deal of info. This is like one of my favorite websites that I've kind of come across in the cannabis industry for information. I think they just nailed it.
Yeah, this is the best website I've seen, hands down. I think that for information, we were looking at some of the colors, everything. I've talked ad nauseum about cannabis companies trying to stand out in a world where you're not allowed to do any promotion or advertising. Really, colors are a big thing in doing that, and they nail that. But you can't just have all sizzle and no steak, and they have the information. So bravo to these guys. Check out the website, and they even have an app where you can scan your lot number and stuff. So to me, it's the best website for a combination of the information, but it also is visually very appealing. And we haven't always seen that. We've seen sometimes how websites have one, but not the other. And this is very eye-catching, as is the cannabis that we're going to get to right now. So the history of Black Cherry Punch. Lay down the lineage on us.
For sure, Dean. So it's a cross of Black Cherry Pie crossed with Purple Punch. So two real delicious cultivars there crossed in to make a super delicious skid. Very tasty, yeah. Within the Black Cherry Pie, we've got Black Cherry Soda crossed with a 501st OG. And then the Purple Punch is a Larry OG crossed with the Granddaddy Perps. So a couple of OGs in there, and then a couple of real kind of flavorful, fruity cultivars. So it's a really good mix.
So the 501st OG and the Larry OG, are those two coming from the same family tree sort of thing that have just been, something else added to take them in a different direction?
Yeah, I mean, OG Kush is in both, for sure. Right. But I mean, they both kind of have very different kind of processes on how they got to the Larry OG and the 501st.
All right. Well, I know this is one of your favorites because of the GDP in this, and I know you love GDP. If anybody's ever looking to get Chris any kind of cannabis gifts, just come to me because I know some of his favorites, and I know GDP is one of yours.
Oh my God, it is. It's that's one where when a lot of people come in and they ask me a question in store, I want to relax, I want to feel good, I want to have just a nice chill evening. Like they're not too educated, they don't know too much. I always try and let's start with the GDP. It's not too intense, just a super amazing cultivar created by one of my cannabis heroes, Ken Estes, the medicine man. So just legendary stuff there.
All right.
But
go on. Go on.
Yeah, I was just going to say about the GDP is amazing, but the Black Cherry Punch that we have was initially bred by the elite cannabis breeders in-house genetics, and they're out of the USA, and they've got 63 unique cultivars that I came across on my Seed Finder website there.
Wow.
With really cool names that I've never heard of before. Afghanimal, Blue Nana, Cherry Gorilla, Daddy Mac. And there was even one called Customer Service, a cultivar. It's called Customer Service. It's a Girl Scout cookies crossed with an Allen wrench.
Well, hey, you can fix anything with an Allen wrench, so that works out, and I love that. I love Afghanimal. I think I might have to get name my next cannabis accessory an Afghanimal or something like that. I think that is absolutely awesome. Okay, so this is 23.4%, and we'll tell you where that kind of fits on our level. But what's in a name, do you think, Chris?
So with the black cherry punch, it's a genetics name. We've got the black cherry pie, so the black cherry, and we've got the purple punch, so you got the punch. I think too with the black cherry is a flavor name with the sweetness of it. But that's pretty much kind of just a basic genetics and flavor name, Dean.
Alrighty, now we get to the look and start with the packaging. A standard tub, but at least it's not white. I think that stands out. If you're in a store and you're looking for something to display, that's going to catch people's eyes a little bit more. It was sealed. There was no humidity pack, so I'm gonna grade. If you have a humidity pack, you get bonus points. If you don't, it's unfortunate. You should, but I will say, despite there not being a humidity pack, this was in great shape. It was in phenomenal shape. The only thing I worry about is, I have purchased, not this company, but different types of cannabis that have been a year and a half old. And I'm not saying a humidity pack's going to make it great, but it could help. Having said that, this stuff is in phenomenal shape, Chris.
Yeah, big time, man. I got some stuff last week and the week before. I'm a big fan of the what I've seen, really nice, well-trimmed nugs. Smaller size, which I am totally good with. No leaves at all, just real dense nugs. Color-wise, we've got, the darker green buds for sure, with some purple flecks in the bud and some real nice bright orange pistils. Kind of my favorite thing about the look, though, is the dusting of trichomes. I think it's quite frosty. Looks super nice. I was very impressed when I first cracked my first jar of the Figure Black Cherry.
Yeah, it's in great shape. Feel wise, like when you touch it, it's spongy. And sometimes I get a little bit leery when I see small buds and no humidity pack because they can be dry. And this one, sponge perfect. It's sponge worthy, to quote Seinfeld. It was absolutely awesome. And in the trim job, as you mentioned, the trim job is just, some of the best. Like, you're going to take some stems out as you're going, but there was like no leaves. It was just, it was one of the best trim jobs that I've seen in quite a long time. So bravo to them. This is terrific shaped cannabis. This is what, when you pay the money for your cannabis and get home, you are totally satisfied. I don't know how anybody could say anything negative about this batch of cannabis, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well said, Dean. I completely agree with you. Like I said, I've been a big fan. I've gotten quite a few tubs already, and the pre-rolls too are nice as well. They come in a real slick kind of tin packaging. It's awesome.
I'm looking forward to that. All right, let's talk about the terpene profile with Black Cherry Punch.
Yeah, for sure. So we got limonene. That's our dominant terpene. And that's going to be kind of a citrus fruity aroma and flavor. Caryophyllene is number 2. And that's black pepper and spice. And then we got linalool as number 3, and that's kind of a floral lavender flavor and aroma there. So cool thing about the terps for I guess this particular Know Your Buds is like we know specifically the batch that you had there. These are the dominant terpenes.
Yeah, you can look up as we did from the batch, and I'm just going to list them off. So as we mentioned, limonene is 0.36%, caryophyllene 0.22%, linalool 1.8, and then myrcene is the fourth one at 1.3. So it's amazing. It gives you lists like this is total transparency, and this is what the consumer wants, right? Especially people that are very new to cannabis and maybe don't know anything that it was other than it was illegal and maybe shady. And well, this pulls back the curtain, right? This shows you everything that this is certified to be and is. And this is what's going to bring other people in. And speaking of new people, well, give us a run through of what a terpene is for maybe some of the new listeners and viewers we've picked up in 2021.
Yeah, for sure, Dean. So terpenes they're aromatic oils. They secrete from the cannabis glands, and they make your cannabis smell or taste a certain way. So when you got bud like lemon skunk or something super citrusy, limonene is going to be probably one of the more dominant terpenes in there. with terpenes, there's the smell and the taste and the flavor. There can also be some effects that you can kind of receive from terpenes. Now everyone is different. Our bodies all react differently to cannabis, as we all have different biologies. But there are some generalizations where some I guess limonene, for example, is known to be a bit uplifting, whereas myrcene could be a bit more sedative, a bit more heavy, a bit more into the couch. But again, those are generalizations. I mean, terpenes and cannabis affect everyone differently. But with the terpenes comes into play the entourage effect, Dean, and that's THC, CBD, and your terpenes all combined together to give you the desired effect of the cannabis.
Mm-hmm, yeah, and we're finding out more and more, and they even have the cannabinoids listed on those COAs on the website. So great information from you, and great information from Figure as well. So what did you smell when you cracked open your batch the first time?
So for me, initially earthy and spicy, right off the hop, for sure. And then I definitely got like a kind of a sweet, almost candy-like smell. I'm kind of trying to realize if maybe the name is kind of giving me a bit of that placebo effect. Because I keep thinking of the Coke bottles, like those black cherry cola bottles. But I definitely got earthy, spicy, and sweet for sure. Yeah.
The first thing I thought of when I opened it, and I kind of think I'm a little bit the same with you, kind of maybe influenced by the name a little bit, but I smell Black Forest cake and sort of the cherries that go in that right away. I will tell you though, after the grind, and I think that's also something that's important for people, smell your cannabis before you grind it up and smell it after, because things get, molecules get released and things like that. But I got a real strong floral smell that wasn't as prevalent before, that was really there after the grind. So I think that's also another, we talk about putting your cannabis under a light and looking at it a little bit, smelling it before and after the grind, I think can bring out some different flavor smells as well too.
Yeah, that's become, I guess, a part of my ritual now, Dean. It wasn't before. Now when I prepare a joint, I will smell my grinder, because you do get some extra notes in there once it is ground up. So highly recommend everyone check that out. Do it on your own. You will notice the difference.
All right. What about the taste test? What do you get from this?
So taste test for me was definitely earthy and woodsy. And on the exhale, it's kind of like a citrus fruity sweetness coming out. So again, made me think of those Coke bottles.
Yeah.
But delightful. It tastes delightful in my opinion, Dean.
I think I definitely got the earthy and the sweetness on the exhale. I'm just waiting for the old Supernova Volcano Hybrid to fire up, and I will get another taste at it. But certainly the earthy taste was very prominent. And I was expecting more of the floral taste, and it's there, but it's more kind of like that fruity sweetness that you talk about. What about your experience? I know you've had a lot of experience lately because you've been a big fan of this, but and as we should point out, as you did, everybody is different, but what was your experience like?
Right. So in my experience, super relaxing, very soothing on the body. The initial highs is more so on the body to start, and then I kind of, there's a steady head buzz throughout. Makes me smile a lot. I get in a really good mood when I smoke the Black Cherry Punch. I find it to be very balanced with the head and the body, maybe a slight edge to the body, but there is some real nice head effects to it. Yeah, like I said, I've been a big fan of it. I feel like I sold a lot of it too. People come in asking for something tasty. Here's what I like that's tasty. And it's super smooth to smoke too. That was worth, I guess, bringing up. Is every time that I was consuming it in the joints that I would roll, it was super smooth right to the filter, which is, I appreciate that a lot.
Well, I could tell you, I haven't been doing a lot of smoking. Well, I haven't been doing any smoking and vaping since I, came down with pneumonia last week. And this is like, one of the first days that I've tried this. And you're right. And I'm taking very, very small because I'm not fully recovered, but very, very smooth, especially in the vape form. So I can totally concur with that. And as mentioned, everybody is a little bit different, but we do like to make sort of some general recommendations of who, what, and when this might be good for based on our experiences with it. So who, what, and when? What do you got?
So who it's good for? Intermediate smokers. Don't jump into the black cherry punch if you're new to cannabis. Just the THC levels are a bit on the high side. Anything 20% plus, you don't just want to dive right into. When it's good for me, it's an all-day cultivar. I like it all day. I think it's best in the evening time, but I definitely have started some days off with the black cherry punch, and found myself still motivated. I still got stuff done, maybe a little bit slower than normal, but with a big smile on my face. So that was great. What it's good for is chilling out, getting your relax on. It was really nice for that. It's great for right after work, even right after dinner. I definitely was a big fan of it then. Kind of right when you get in, take your shoes off, put your keys on the counter, jack it off. What am I going to smoke? I think the black cherry punch is a really good option for that. Just puts you in a right mood. And I think it's great too for watching sports. I watched some NHL games with it. It was awesome. Yeah, for sure.
Well, if you can watch the Oilers and still enjoy it because of black cherry punch, then there's at least a bonus, because there haven't been a lot to enjoy with the Oilers this year. So there's a bonus to that. And you know what, I think you made a really good point that we should bring up is that, this is an indica dominant hybrid, but it's still something that you can use during the day. I think, there's a bit of a push on, and we changed this segment from What's That Strain to Know Your Buds, because we're going with cultivar over strain. There's a lot of people that want to get rid of sativa indica hybrid. I still think we can have those words as long as we educate people that not every indica is going to make you fall asleep, and not every sativa is going to make you talk as fast as possible or whatever. So there's definitely some in-betweens, and it's great to know that this is an indica dominant hybrid that is good during the day.
Yeah, totally, Dean. It was start the day off with this indica dominant hybrid. You're good. I didn't take any naps. I didn't turn into a zombie. Had some really good days.
Awesome. All right, really good days ahead for people in the Plant Life family. You guys are excited about it, and the consumer will be as well.
Yeah, Dino, we're launching a new membership program soon. It's actually going to be called the Plant Life Family, where our guests that come to the Plant Life stores, we're going to be able to. You're going to have an app on your phone that, and there'll be kind of like a point system there, and it's just real exciting. Kind of pumped to get it launched here. I've got to see a little beta version of it, and it looks very cool. I'm excited to use it once it's up and running. And I guess another thing too with our Plant Life family is all of our Instagrams for all of our stores. All the Instagram accounts have been kind of set up. They're all running. And I've had texts from friends asking me, if I've had anything to do with the new Instagram presence that we're seeing from Plant Life lately, and it's just all stores they've all got their accounts up now, and they're posting on the regular. So if you got a Plant Life store that you go to on the regular and frequent, check out their Instagram page, and you can see the daily deals, and even on delivery days, we're kind of letting people know about the new fun stuff that's coming in. So all kinds of fun stuff happening with Plant Life, Dean.
That is awesome. Anyway, any time you can connect more with the consumer and give them more information, all the better. Thank you so much, Chris. Best of luck with the store openings, and we'll talk next week.
Yeah, Dean. Thanks for having me, buddy.
This is the Cannabis 101 podcast. It's all part of the cannabis life experience. Turning the wheel of cannabis one toke at a time.
Thank you very much to Chris Ianson of Plant Life Cannabis, and of course John Fowler, Blaise Ventures, the man who founded 7 Acres, and one of the best slogans to ever grace the cannabis industry: respect the plant. Because that's, if you don't do that from the beginning, then you're hooped. You're not going to go anywhere. So thank you so much to them and to you. I talk a lot about our partners, but you are the most important partner, the listener and the viewer. If you're listening and you want to watch us, check out our YouTube channel at the Cannabis 101 Podcast. And if you want to find past episodes, it's the Cannabis101podcast.ca. You can check out past episodes, contests, and much more. If you like the show, I hope you did, please let us know. Subscribe, leave us a review. Give us your thoughts on the program. Always looking to improve. And if you want to keep up to date on everything going on with the Cannabis 101 Podcast and the Cannabis Life Experience, get the latest with the Cannabis 101 Podcast and the Weed Weekly at the Cannabis101podcast.ca. Sign up. You're in the mix for our Friday giveaway. Only for subscribers, though. We spin the wheel of names and give something away every Friday. And it's an easy way to keep up to date with the Cannabis 101 Podcast. If you'd like to become a partner, check us out. Email me at cannabis101podcast@gmail.com. For other shows, by the way, of the podcast variety, check out podcastalley.ca. Got some fantasy sports shows, an NHL draft show with Craig Button, and much more. We're back at it on Thursday. I know the graphic says Monday, but it will be Thursday with hour number 2, which is usually hour number 1. David Wiley of the OZ on This Week in Cannabis News, and Malcolm LaBelle from the Green Generation Company on the business of cannabis. We'll have Weed Word of the Day, the Cannabis Question once again, where you can qualify again for our Cannabis 101 podcast, and we will have the more information on the Weed Weekly. So there you go. That will wrap things up for us on this episode. As we always do, we will leave you with the marijuana song from the artist My Dead Dog. Thank you so much once again to John Fowler of Blaise Ventures, Chris Hyanson of Plant Life Cannabis. My name is Dean Millard. We'll chat again on Thursday. Remember, it's not just about getting high, it's about getting healthy.